More than 34 murder and rape cases, ranked 21st globally in terms of brutality, criminality, and shock because the victims were children under 12 years old. But the biggest shock, the leader of this gang was also a child. Who is this serial killer who left behind horrific, painful crimes against children who were raped, tortured, and completely disfigured? More importantly, why did he kill all these children and what drove him to such savagery? Many questions run through everyone's minds and the answers are truly terrifying. Again, today's story contains horrific, disgusting details that might be painful for some. So if you're not used to this type of content, don't continue watching. And before we begin, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel, and now grab your favorite drink and let's dive into our story. On November 27, 2006, a maintenance worker accidentally discovered a child's skeleton in the subway tunnels of northern Cairo. It had clearly been there for a long time. Days later, another child's body was found on the railway track in Alexandria. Around the same time as the second incident, a third child's body was discovered at the train station. After careful examination and inspection in these areas, police recovered 12 bodies, all belonging to young children between 9 and 12 years old. After examining the bodies, the forensic report confirmed that all children had been sexually assaulted and beaten with sharp objects, with numerous fractures in various parts of the body. But the actual cause of death for many of them was being run over by trains. You're probably asking, why trains? There are many ways to dispose of bodies, like burning or burial. Be patient and you'll soon find out why. All state agencies, police, and criminal investigation experts were mobilized. The media and newspapers too. Families prevented their children from going out to the streets or to schools. TV channels covered the crime details and street children issues, turning this into a public opinion case, which increased pressure on police officers who devoted all their resources to following the case and uncovering its dimensions. Hundreds of police and crime investigators were deployed to track down the perpetrator in the provinces where the crimes were occurred. At the same time, missing person reports were reviewed to try to identify the bodies. But unfortunately, they couldn't reach any conclusion. The missing person reports from the previous period didn't match any of the bodies they had. Therefore, the most logical analysis was that these children were street kids or beggars. So nobody asked about them or their disappearance. Police launched widespread arrest campaign in all the places where beggars and homeless people were found, and drug dens located in slum areas. After interrogation, police noticed significant similarities in some of the accounts and details mentioned. Among those arrested was a gang member named Ahmed Samir, 16 years old. After intensive investigations came the big surprise. The gang behind all these crimes was nothing but a group of children. Yes, my friend, children, but not ordinary ones. Children who surpassed any mature gang in their criminality. When Ahmed was taken for questioning, he showed signs of fear and confusion. He asked the officer to protect him from Al Torbini, who was stalking him to kill him. When the officer asked who Al Torbini was, why he wanted to kill him, and why they killed all those children, Ahmed was trembling in fear. Come with me as I tell you who Al Torbini is. His real name is Ramadan Abdurrahim Mansour, born in 1980 to a dirt poor family. Before becoming Al Torbini, according to published reports, Ramadan had to work at just 12 years old to help put food on the table. He landed a job at a railway cafeteria, working for this real piece of work named Abdu Al Torbini, who refused to pay him after months of work. Hold on. A Torbini different from the killer Torbini? Yes guys, the original Torbini was a cruel man who exploited street children and beggars, taking everything they had. In other words, he ran a street children mafia network, which Ramadan was one of its victims or members. When Torbini refused to pay Ramadan, the kid kept pushing for his money and challenging him. Torbini's response was, "Fine, meet me on top of the train and I'll bring you the money." Ramadan went to the train roof where Torbini was waiting. Yeah, you can guess where this is going. It was a trap. The guy raped him, beat him up and threw him off the train. Unfortunately, Ramadan didn't die, but he was left with a permanent squint in his eye and various injuries that kept him in the hospital for a month. He emerged depressed, sad, and withdrawn. He filed a police report against Torbini, who got arrested for all of 14 days. Then they let him go cause there wasn't enough evidence. Ramadan swore revenge, but death beat him to it. Al-Torbini died in a car crash. But Ramadan's rage just boiled over. He felt cheated out of revenge, so he decided to become the new Al-Torbini. He started his own gang, repeating the same horror he'd suffered, this time targeting kids under 13. And guess where he did it? The train roof, of course. Ramadan took over street kids, forcing them to work and stealing their cash. Anyone who resisted, let's just say they regretted it. But soon, killing wasn't just about control or money. It became his sick obsession. He got off on it. Al-Torbini picked his victims carefully. The big rule: they had to be 12 years old. Why? Because that's the age he was when he was assaulted. He wanted to take out all his rage on these kids, since he couldn't get back at the original Al-Torbini. He tricked them with promises of fun trips, gifts, or free train rides to another city. Once he got them on the roof where no one could hear them scream, he'd assault them, tie them up, and wait for an oncoming train. He tossed them in front of it, slicing their tiny bodies to bits. That way, they couldn't survive to snitch. Sometimes he dumped them in sewers, water tanks, or buried them alive. In 2003, one of his gang members, Fauzi, got arrested. The kid who ratted him out was named Mohammed Kamal. When Al-Torbini heard his name came up during the investigation, he lost it. He hunted down Kamal, dragged him to an abandoned tunnel, and ordered his gang to beat him half to death. When Kamal was barely breathing, Al-Torbini told the gang to leave, raped him again, then bashed his skull in with a rock. That's the kid whose skeleton they found later. Another kid named Ibrahim got lured by Ramadan near a cemetery. While Ramadan and his gang were high, they beat Ibrahim senseless, then took turns raping him. This time, the murder was different. Al-Torbini buried him alive. Even his gang was shocked. They thought he was just trying to scare the kid. But nope, Al-Torbini left him there to die. Killing clearly became a twisted hobby for Al-Torbini, and it only got worse. Eventually, kids were not enough. He married a young sex worker named Azza and used her to lure girls. You can guess the rest. Yeah. He did the same stuff to them. And in 2006, Al-Torbini tried to assault a kid named Ahmed Naji, who miraculously escaped. The kid went to the police station and filed a report against Al-Torbini. The cops arrested him, but sadly, they had to let him go because there wasn't enough evidence. After that, one of the gang members brought Ahmed Naji to Al-Torbini, who ordered his crew to take the kid to an area with huge water tanks. There, Ahmed endured every kind of torture. The gang members brutally assaulted him until he was bleeding out. When he screamed and begged for mercy, Al-Torbini told his gang to leave them alone. He assaulted Ahmed, beat him, and then threw him off the top of the tank, killing him instantly. Ahmed was the last kid Al-Torbini murdered. During the investigation of Ahmed's case, the second suspect from the gang, Ahmed Aziz, cracked. He made shocking confessions to the prosecution, admitting that he, Ahmed, Al-Torbini, and the rest of the gang had killed 8 kids across different provinces. Samir, one of Al-Torbini's right-hand men, also confessed. He said Al-Torbini would convince the kids he was taking them on a fun trip to Alexandria. Once they were on the train, he'd assault them and then throw them onto the tracks as the train was coming. Samir even said, "I don't know how to tell you this, but I remember Al-Torbini urinated in one of the kids' mouths moments before killing him. Honestly, I don't know what to say. How can someone reach this level of cruelty and with children?" 2 days later, Ahmed and Aziz were arrested. They confessed everything and even led the police to Al-Torbini's hiding spots. And finally, the cops managed to catch the gang gang leader. Al-Turbini confessed to all his crimes easily and without hesitation. He led the police to 15 bodies, and the cops found 8 more on their own, bringing the total to 23, but the actual number was much higher. The weirdest part, Al-Turbini showed no fear or remorse. Some of his most chilling confessions included: raping and killing children is a pure pleasure for me. It satisfies my need for power and control. He admitted to starting his criminal activities 7 years earlier and committing at least 32 murders, though the number later rose to 38. When Al-Turbini walked into the courtroom, everyone noticed an unbearable stench coming from him. He hadn't bathed in years, and his clothes was so filthy that the guards had to cover their noses. The prosecution ordered that he be given a bath and clean clothes before the investigations began. After 14 days of interrogations and confessions, the names of 15 victims were revealed. On March 18, 2007, the first session of the trial for Al-Turbini and his 6 accomplices began. The atmosphere was tense, with heavy security and media presence as the defendants entered the courtroom. After confessing at least 38 murders and rapes, the verdict everyone was waiting finally came on June 20, 2007. Al-Turbini and Samir were sentenced to death by hanging, while the rest of the gang members received prison sentences ranging between 15 and 25 years. Al-Turbini and Samir were executed by hanging on December 16, 2010. The rest of the gang got varying prison sentences. Aziz got 15 years, while some members were sent to juvenile court because they were underage. And just like that, one of the most horrific crime sprees in history came to an end. Looking back at Al-Turbini case, it's clear that Ramadan, the child, was a victim of rape and attempted murder. There is no doubt that left a deep, painful scar, turning him from a kid just trying to work into a monster hell-bent on revenge. Maybe Ramadan was already mentally ill before the rape, and that's what made the original Al-Turbini target him. Or maybe the trauma of the assault triggered severe PTSD, and his actions were just a twisted reaction to what he'd been through. While many agree that his execution was justice served, especially since he confessed to his crimes, though his defense claimed it was under torture. Some argue he should have been treated as a mentally ill patient, a street kid who'd been wronged and tortured, and judged accordingly. In the end, the execution of Ramadan, or Al-Turbini, closed a dark chapter in Egyptian's history. But did it really end everything? Are child killers gone from this world? Or are there still plenty out there? What do you think, guys? Was it the circumstances and injustice Al-Turbini faced turned him into that monster, already primed for these crimes? Or was he just a psychopath from the start? These questions still linger, and the biggest one: was Al-Turbini really the only one who responsible for this tragedy? Or were there others working behind the scene? Drop your thoughts in the comments. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. See you in the next video.